Hello! Hi! Hi, boys and girls! Today we are going to read a new chapter. It's called The Funny Walking Stick. The Funny Walking Stick. It's a cane, okay? A cane. Un bastón. The Funny Walking Stick. There, you can see the walking stick. Look at Mr. Twit. He has a crazy face. He is doing something to the walking stick of Mrs. Twit. Okay, can you see that? To pay Mrs. Twit back for the worms in his spaghetti, Mr. Twit thought up a really clever and nasty trick. One night, when the old woman was asleep, he crept out of bed and took her walking stick downstairs to his work shed. There, he stuck a tiny round piece of wood, no thicker than a penny, onto the bottom of the stick. This made the stick longer, but the difference was so small that the next morning Mrs. Twit didn't notice. Now, do you see? They look like coins. He is adding these to the bottom of the walking stick every night. Every night he is gluing these little round things to the bottom of the walking stick. So the walking stick is getting longer. Every night it's getting longer, okay? The following night, Mr. Twit stuck another tiny bit of wood. Every night he crept downstairs and added an extra tiny thickness of wood to the end of the walking stick. He did it very neatly so that the extra bits looked like a part of the old stick. Gradually, so gradually, Mrs. Twit's walking stick was getting longer and longer. Now, when something is growing very, very slowly, like you, for example, you are growing every day a little bit more and more and more, it's almost impossible to notice it happening. You wouldn't think of it, would you? But you are getting taller every day, right? It's happening so slowly that you can't really notice it from week to week. It was the same with Mrs. Twit's walking stick. It was so slow, so gradual, that she didn't notice how long it was getting even when it was halfway up to her shoulder. Okay, the walking stick was already up to her shoulder. "That stick is too long for you," said Mr. Twit to her one day. Look, the walking stick is up to her shoulder. And look at Mr. Twit's face. He's like, he knows what's happening, but she doesn't understand how her walking stick is getting so tall, so long. She doesn't understand what's going on. "Why, so it is," said Mrs. Twit, looking at the stick. "I had a feeling there was something wrong, but I didn't know what it was." "There's something wrong with it, all right," said Mr. Twit. He was beginning to enjoy himself. "What can have Mrs. Twit said, looking at her old walking stick. It must suddenly have grown longer. Don't be a fool, Mr. Twit said. How can a walking stick grow longer? It's made of dead wood. Dead wood can't grow. Then what on earth has happened? Cried Mrs. Twit. It's not the stick, it's you. Mr. Twit said, grinning horribly. It's you. It's you. You are getting shorter. That is not true, said Mrs. Twit. You are shrinking, woman. You are shrinking. That is not possible. Oh, yes, it is. You are shrinking dangerously fast. You must have shrunk at least a foot in the last few days. Never, never, she cried. Of course you have. Take a look at your stick, you old goat. See how much you have shrunk in comparison. You have got the shrinks. That's what you've got. You've got the dreaded shrinks. Mrs. Twit began to feel so trembly she had to sit down. I've got the shrinks. As soon as Mrs. Twit sat down, Mr. Twit pointed at her and shouted, There you are! You're sitting in your old chair, and you've shrunk so much that your feet aren't touching the ground. Mrs. Twit looked down at her feet, and by golly, the man was right. Her feet were not touching the ground. Look, her walking stick was so long, and look at her little stool was also so much taller. Her feet were flying in the air. Was she shrinking? Mr. Twit, you see, had been just as clever as intelligent with the chair as he had been with the walking stick. Every night he put a little bit extra on the stick, and he put a little bit extra on the four legs of Mrs. Twit's chair. Just look at you sitting there in your same old chair, he cried. You have shrunk so much that your feet are dangling in the air. Mrs. Twit went white with fear. You've got the shrinks, cried Mr. Twit, pointing his finger at her like a pistol. You've got them badly. You've got the shrinks. You've got the most terrible case of shrinks I have ever seen. Mrs. Twit became so frightened she began to dribble. The saliva started coming down from her mouth. She was like, I've got the shrinks. Oh. But Mr. Twit, still remembering what the woman had done to her in his spaghetti, did not feel sorry for her. I suppose you know what will happen to you when you get the shrinks, woman? What? What will happen to me? Your head will shrink into your neck. Your neck will shrink into your body. Your body will shrink into your legs. Your legs will shrink into your butt. And your butt will shrink into your legs. And your legs will shrink into your shoes until you're just a bundle of clothes. I can't bear it! I can't bear it! It's a terrible disease, the worst in the world. Oh, how long have I got? At this rate, maybe I say 11 days. Isn't there anything that we can do to save me? There is something we can do. Tell me what we can do. But we have to hurry. Oh, I'm ready. I will hurry. I will do anything. You won't last long if we don't do it. What? What is it I have to do? You've got to be stretched, said Mr. Twit. Okay, that's where we stop. So the next chapter, they are going to stretch Mrs. Twit, because now Mr. Twit convinced her that she's got the shrinks, la encogedera. Le convenció que le dio la encogedera. But it's not really true, right? But she believes him. Oh my gosh! What will happen? Okay, so we need to look at the picture. We need to look at the last picture. There is Mrs. Twit. She is dribbling. Her saliva is coming down. She is so afraid because she thinks that she's going to disappear. She thinks that she will die, right? She will die. Mr. Twit is so mean. He convinced her that she's got the shrinks.